rah-rahing the war. Let's stay. What did he say the other day? We may have to be there another 100 years. 100 years? That's a hell of a long time. Well, even in Germany and Japan, in Japan we're not there much anymore, but even in Germany we've only been there 50. 100? Wow. Okay, so he's the GOP. He's saying we got to have more of the same and pile it on. And the Dems are saying, I don't think it hasn't really worked, and we got to look at some other options. And I've got a general here that's told me, So the long and short of it is, and believe me, this comes from having raised in a Democratic Union family in Michigan. But I mean, I got to say, I hope that on November 6th or whatever it is, that either Hillary or Obama is the president. I do. But let's have no illusion about what that's going to lead to. So you can all tell where I'm leading with this. I'm saying it's really up to the soldiers and sailors and Marines and the air members of today. It really is, to stop this war. And those of us on the outside, as the others said, we're proud to be here with you. We stand linked with you. We will do and we'll continue to do as much as we can and hopefully more. And I just want to take 3 minutes and touch on what we're trying to do at Fort Drum, because we've learned some things up there. We went to Fort Drum for a couple of reasons. One, because Fort Drum is the 10th Mountain Division is the most heavily deployed of any division in the U.S. Army. The brigade that left there this fall, most of the members of that brigade are on their 3rd tour. Those brigade tours now are 15 months. That means somewhere between 36, to be conservative, and 45 months in a combat zone. And if you saw the Ken Burns documentary on World War II, it was pretty good. I don't know if you saw it, and he has some psychiatrists, some therapists who studied PTSD very deeply and very seriously over a long period of time. And they said, we learned that after 240 days in combat, PTSD begins to manifest itself, be manifested. That's the average. There's some people that will manifest PTSD in a few days or maybe even hours, depending on what they're put up to or what they're forced to do. But that's the reality of this war. People serving. Vietnam, for most guys, I noticed that Ron had volunteered for another tour, Ron Kovic. Most people did 12 months home, thank God. Take the uniform off in the Oakland airport bathroom, throw it on the floor, run out and buy some tie-dyed shirts and get the hell out. That's what people did. Today, well, you can't get on a bus and go up to Vancouver anymore because the U.S. and Canadian military people put an end to that, as you know. Now, I know there's a struggle to try to open it, and I wish them well, but the fact is no American citizen has ever been given refugee status in Canada in the history of that country as a straight refugee. I'm not talking about during the Vietnam period. So those are big, big differences that we faced. But so we went to Drum because the deployments are so heavy. The soldiers are so worn down there. The families are, you probably saw this story, it went out on the wire last week, a big story. The Major General of the base, General Oates, he says, this drinking, driving has gotten out of hand. And it's Eli who's here tonight from Fort Drum, one of our real, Eli Wright. Yeah. Stand up, my man. Oh, give him a round, man. You want to talk about courage. If you haven't served in the military, and I haven't, but I've worked around it a long, long time, you don't realize the power that the command can bring to bear on you. The total kind of encapsulating power and authority they have over you when they choose to exercise it. And Eli and his brothers, Phil, and others there have stood up to it. And they deserve our deepest gratitude and our support. There's no doubt about it. But what he said to me, let's give him a hand again. He was great. But what he said about General Oates and his new plan, and so this is coming out in the press, you probably saw it, and I should have brought the paper, I wish I could hold it up here. General Oates decided that everybody on that base who'd been arrested for drunk driving, arrested, not convicted, arrested, was going to have their picture published prominently in color in the base newspaper. So there's page after page of these poor folks' pictures. Sergeant Jones, he was arrested at 11 o'clock at night on Highway 4. Sergeant Smith, and some women as well. And then a few they don't have pictures for. I don't quite understand why they don't have pictures of them. You'd think with our great security system they have pictures of everybody. But about a third of them, they have no pictures. Okay. So, there's a limit? All right. So, that's cool. I could do that. So, he runs these pictures. So, Eli and I and Phil were up there last weekend, or I was up there visiting them. And Eli said, those guys are all in the 2nd Brigade. Almost all of them. He said, don't you get it? The 2nd Brigade just came back 4 or 5 months ago. He said the first couple months you get back from one of those tours, you're just in your community, the hell out of there. Enjoying your leave, whatever you're doing. Oh, man. And then you come back. And when you come back, you start training again for redeployment and new tactics and blah, blah, blah. Okay. So General Oates, he's maybe a 2-star general, and he may be the commanding general of the base and of 17,000 soldiers, but he don't understand this one. So could it be that these folks are what psychiatrists call self-medicating? They're trying to somehow deal with what they've been through and what they're facing and how they're trying to confront all the questions of this war for them personally and their families? Well, so that's an issue we're at the different drum we're going to be raising, and we hope to get the New York Civil Liberties to support us in it, because these are people, talk about due process. Barry was talking about reading the 4th of July Independence, Declaration of Independence. Well, how about in that independence statement, there's a line called due process, that you shall be accorded something in line with the recognized mechanisms of a judicial system. Not to General Oates. Guilty as charged. And that's just a small sense of what they're really about up there. And it's no different than at the other bases. So I want to just finish with a little bit about different drums. So we went there because it's the most deployed base. We know there's a great need, and hopefully we can develop a greater interest in what we're about and what we are offering and trying to hold out to people. I want to make a couple of quick points about that. One is there are many types of organizing. Coffee House, which we're trying to do there, it's seen as an experiment, seen as an attempt to change. We know we're an all-volunteer force now. I explain it in my book, and if you'd like to, I have a few copies. There is a great difference in a draftee or draft-infused, as Dave said, draft-enhanced military and the one we have today. It's not representative of the cross-section of the society. Pay and benefits are competitive. It's better than night window at Wendy's. It really is. How many other low-ranking workers do you know that have insurance, health insurance, or the whole family? Can you name any? Target, you want to bet? Nowhere. And third, 20 years you stick it. If you could stick it, who's getting a pension at 38 these days? Who gets a pension at all these days? Right? So these are things that has changed the conditions of employment and make people react differently to the military than the draftee force. All right. So there's many ways to resist. Counseling, certainly important. GI rights hotline, one-on-one groups. We do it at the drummer. We have people come in all the time. Can't get help. Can't get PTSD care. Can't get even seen by a psychiatrist, much less get help. Another thing we're starting to try to do there is work with families. And this doesn't always have an anti-war component to it. You're going to have families that will say, well, I don't know what I think about the war, but my husband's really sick. So you go with that, and that's what we try to do there. The other thing is Dave and the others said, I'll wrap up on this. There are many types of resistance. There's petitioning. There's challenging orders, small and large. There is seeking discharges, COs, hardships, other types. There's one thing we just did up there was filing for a court of inquiry. People don't realize it, but there's actually some parts of the UCMJ, the Code of Military Justice, that actually provide some real rights if they're recognized. And one of them is a court of inquiry. And there was a famous court of inquiry 30 years ago, and Dave probably could tell me what it is, right? The Pierce Commission, which investigated the My Lai massacre. Because this was so engulfing and so large and so monumental in this country at that time, they felt they had to do something, and they appointed a 135 Court of Inquiry to investigate it under General Pierce. So we've asked for one of those just this last week up there for this whole scandal. We're going to be talking about tomorrow at 11:30 with the whole veterans care and the whole active duty military care issue. Finally, the speaking out publicly. Then there's urging disobedience of direct orders. There's refusing to deploy. And then, of course, there's leaving military control. And finally, of course, and maybe the most heavy, we used to say, combat refusal. You know, in the zone, beyond the wire, refusing, changing orders, and that sort of thing. We know some of it goes on. So let's be creative. Let's look at it. My message to IBAW, more than anything else, and I've said it to a lot of you guys and women, let's get the GI movement let's make it a priority. And let's, however we can do that, however that can happen. I know at Fort Hood there's something going on. I know in Hawaii, one of our brothers here tonight is going out to Hawaii and starting something. We've got a brother at Fort Meade that's doing some things. We need to encourage that wherever we can, because I'm telling you, the soldiers and sailors and Marines of airmen of this country and airwomen are the crux that's going to end this war.